Let's try the cloud and see if that works this time. Okay, so we're recording now. All right, so welcome to our seminar today. For our online participants, I have muted you, but at the end of the seminar, I'll take a look at the chat window. You can use Alt-H to see that, and you can type your questions in the chat window, and I'll be sure to get to them at the end of our seminar, at the end of the first seminar. Right now, we're going to talk about Submission 101, so submitting your dissertation, thesis, or report to the graduate school. My name is Deborah Charlesworth. One of my responsibilities is sort of overseeing that process. And so I look forward to working with all of you as we start to do that. Today we are doing something a little different. The slides are not correct. But we're just going to go with it and see what's wrong in the next one. We are doing today, we're going to have Submission 101 from 1 to 2, and then following this, we're going to have Formatting 101, talking about using the guide and the Word template. Then we will have a short 15-minute break, and then we'll follow that up with 2 more seminars, one on copyright for your thesis, dissertation, or report, and one on checking and fixing your document. And there should be some time at the end for your final questions. All the seminars are taped online for those people who aren't able to be here, or if you'd like to watch them again yourself. Today we are going to talk about how to find information and get help, how to get ready for your oral defense, scheduling your oral defense, and what happens after your oral defense. There's a lot of different steps involved along the way. So who helps you with their submission? There's a lot of people. Nancy Byers-Sprague and myself both provide a lot of academic assistance and kind of the final check on all the documents. If there's some billing issues, Heather might get involved, the library's involved in cataloging, and then of course the graduate school helps with formatting. We will have student-led workshops later in the semester, as well as seminars we're doing here today. So there's a lot of different people involved. And what I'd like to encourage you all to do is that if you have any questions about any part of this process at any time, about anything related to your degree, email gradschool@mtu.edu. That gets to me, it gets to Nancy, it gets to our student workers. You don't have to carbon copy 6 people, send it to 1 email address. That's all you need to do, and it'll get to a variety of people who can help you. A lot of questions we get in are very common questions, and we can have a student just kind of reply to you right away. So this will get you a quicker response, particularly for very easy questions, because we have a lot of common responses that we can have given out. When you are on the website, we did organize that differently last year with the upgrade to the new template and all the CMS content that came out there. 2 of the most important areas for you as students are the policies and procedures area and the resources for area. Under that policies area, if you're looking for a form or want to know what the deadlines are, that's where you're going to want to go. If you're looking for your degree completion timeline, that's where you'll find that. I'll explain that in a little more detail in a minute. And as well as you're looking for resources on reports or theses or dissertation, those 2 links there will give you the most information. Resources 4 is where you can find that current students page, and that's going to get you just a variety of things throughout our website that are going to be really helpful to students to make sure that you've got that information. So that forms and deadlines page, again, at the very top, it's got all the forms kind of lumped together. You can find them on My Michigan Tech at any time, but if you're like, I know I need a form and I just don't know where it is, that current students will give you a whole big massive list of them. In fact, it's pretty much just a list. I would actually search for it probably to find it because it's a pretty massive list. You don't fill in all the forms, but they're all there. So, you know, there's transfer credit forms and applications for parental accommodation and all sorts of things that may or may not be applicable to you. If you have questions on the deadlines, at the bottom of that page will be deadlines for at least 2 or 3 upcoming semesters, depending on when you look at the website. I'm in the process of updating it now for fall 2018, but right now spring and summer 2018 are on there. For our forms, there's a technical item to remember. They are mostly dynamic forms when you start to deal with theses and dissertations. And what that means is that when you answer your question and when you say you're a master's student in a certain program, it'll know then that you only need 3 people for your committee, for example. So it will only allow you to fill in the things that you need to fill in. So you don't have to read any if-then statements and figure out what you need to do to fill in the form. As long as you fill in all the required items, you'll have given the graduate school everything that we need to complete your processing of your degree. They really only work in Adobe Reader or Adobe Acrobat on Windows or Macintosh. That's going to get you the best compatibility. And so for best results, we would recommend that you right-click on the hyperlink and select Save the File to your hard drive, and then open it up with Adobe Acrobat or Adobe Reader. It'll just give you the best results, and it'll give you the easiest time. It won't work on a Linux machine. If you click on a Mac and your Mac is configured to open them up in preview, it'll give you this message saying you need to upgrade Acrobat. You don't need to upgrade Acrobat. You just need to open the file in Acrobat. The degree completion timeline is a resource on our website, and if you haven't taken a look at this, particularly with you're doing a thesis or dissertation or a report, it's going to be really helpful. It has a list of everything that you need to complete and when you need to complete it. And then as well, those details button will give you an additional information. So for example, planning for your defense, the details has got about 10 different things to do, like reserve a room, fill in this, talk to your committee, talk to your advisor. It's got like a lot of helpful things that maybe aren't forms or things that you're required to do, but that are really helpful for you to know about. So that's on our website under those degree completion timelines, and it's really helpful. Again, on that current students page, the seminar for today, as well as all the seminars for the rest of the afternoon, as well as the previous ones that we've ever done, as long as they're still up to date and relevant. On that online seminar archive that's boxed in red on this particular slide, you'll find all that information. And so they're always available. I've recorded this probably once a semester for the last probably 7 years. So it's always been there. People ask me this every time. I had somebody ask me this morning, well, will it be recorded if I can't come? It's been recorded every semester for about 7 years. So I've done this a lot. So we've been doing them for a while like that. My Michigan Tech, if you haven't looked at it recently, maybe you're a PhD student, you're 7 years in, you don't really need to because you did everything except the dissertation. You want to go back there now. You want to look at it a little bit more frequently. Your checklist will actually change based on the day of your defense. It will change the day before your defense and the day after your defense. It will look different because different things are required of you before and after your defense. So it's very context sensitive. Your student checklist then, which is on your main current students page, will tell you time-sensitive things that you need to complete your degree. On My Michigan Tech, there is also a degree completion timeline, and that has a complete list of everything that you need to complete your degree that's required by the graduate school, and whether or not you've done it or not. So you might have done some of these things 2, 3, 4 years ago if you're a PhD student, and this is your opportunity to review that list and make sure that the graduate school's records are complete. Especially if you're thinking about graduating this semester, this is a good time to look at that and make sure that what you think you turned in, we say you've turned in, because this is a time to rectify any errors. It also will give you the overall status for your dissertation, thesis, or report in kind of like a 2-sentence line, so you'll know what's going on. If you have issues, again, please email gradschool@m2.edu. We can't fix problems if we don't know about them, so if something's wrong, please let us know, whether it's programming or with your particular situation. Many items still require a human being to get a piece of paper and do something in Banner. So please don't expect that the instant this piece of paper goes to some magical person that it's immediately going to get checked off. And we'd ask you to allow 10 business days for forms. Your dissertation, when it's received electronically, is going to be checked in within 2 days, business days. So again, on that checklist, on your My Michigan Tech page, your checklist is on the left-hand column, and it's circled in red there. And your degree completion timeline and your dissertation, thesis, or report area is in the center column, and that's circled there in red as well. So you can kind of see, I think, if you look at the slides online, you'll be able to read it, but that dissertation, thesis, or report for this particular student, has said that it's been submitted and it'll be reviewed by a certain date, and your final oral exam is scheduled for this date. So it'll tell you all the stuff we know about you in kind of a 1 or 2 line thing. The degree completion timeline for a dissertation, thesis, or report student has a really special section kind of below the main section. And this is everything that you need to do to complete your dissertation, thesis, or report. In blue is when you need to complete it. So there's a lot of things to do, but if you kind of break it down, there's only a couple things to do in different points in time. So don't get overwhelmed with the list. Look at the blue line, and it says 2 weeks before your defense, submit your pre-defense form and your dissertation to the graduate school. Those are the only 2 things you need to do right away. And then you move to the next step, and you move to the next step, and you go through that process. So that'll tell you when and it'll tell you what. And so it's broken down by what you need to do. And we'll talk about all these items in more detail through the rest of the seminar. Yes, ma'am. That's from your My Michigan Tech page. On the degree completion timeline area in the center panel, you'll see a link there to your degree completion timeline. Thank you for bringing that up. So now we're at the stage where we want to get ready for our oral defense. If you want to graduate in any semester that you want to graduate, these are the universal deadlines. So you need to schedule your defense by the Tuesday of week 10, no later than that. You schedule it later than that, you can't graduate in this semester. You need to graduate in a future semester. You need to have your defense no later than the Tuesday of week 12. And then you have until the Monday of week 13, 4 p.m. to submit your corrected document and any associated paperwork. If that document is fine, you're done. You don't have to do anything else unless there's other requirements, but in terms of your dissertation. If it's not accepted and you've made some formatting corrections or formatting errors in your document, you've got things in the margins, your page numbers are wrong, your title page is wrong, something is incorrect about it, you will then have one final opportunity to correct that document by Friday of finals week. That Friday of finals week deadline is only if you've already submitted the document on the Monday of week 13. You don't get to have an extra, like that's the Monday of week 13 is your shooting for deadline for submitting that dissertation, thesis, or report. Some students get confused and think they have until the Friday of finals week. That's only if you've submitted your document on week 13 and there's some corrections to be made. Now notice that this timeline, you have until the Tuesday of week 13 to the Monday of week 13 to correct anything that your committee asks of you. So when you defend, it's giving you less than a week to make any committee corrections. That's a really tight deadline. So when you schedule your defense, if you're scheduling it on the Tuesday of week 12, make sure, if you want to graduate in this semester, that your thesis, dissertation, and report is really clean and ready to go. Because many students take significantly longer than that to make their corrections and kind of think, oh, I'll be able to finish this semester. Well, you might, but only if your dissertation is really done. And on that, you only need a couple days to make your final corrections. If you miss any one of those first three deadlines, the scheduling, holding, or submitting deadlines on that first three lines, you won't be able to graduate in this semester. Doesn't mean you can't graduate, just means you can't graduate this semester. So you can still have a defense after your Tuesday of week 12. Perfectly acceptable to do that. You can schedule your defense for week 14, finals week, whenever it's acceptable for your committee. The only thing you need to do is schedule it 2 weeks in advance. Now the benefit to scheduling your defense before the next semester starts is that you do have this special allowance. So if you schedule your defense before the next semester, you get 1 credit can be full-time for the next 2 semesters. Now, for the spring people, it doesn't really make a whole lot of difference because 1 credit is full-time in the summer anyway. So there's really no rush. If you're going to defend finals week, 14th week, break week, first week in summer, really doesn't matter a whole lot if you're kind of getting close on the deadlines. 1 credit in the summer is full-time anyway. So if you successfully defend the finals week of spring semester, for example, you would be full-time with 1 credit in the summer or fall. Research mode students would still register for 3 like normal 1 credit registration. So for spring 2018, what this means is if you want to graduate this semester, the last day to schedule a defense is March 27th. The last day to hold your defense is April 10th. The last day to submit your final document and paperwork is April 16th. We guarantee that you'll receive a review of that document by April 30th, which will mean you're either done or you'll have the final formatting corrections that you need. And if you get that review back by April 30th and it says you need corrections, you'll have until May 4th to do that. So that May 4th deadline is only for students who've met all the other deadlines on this slide. The next question students usually ask me is, well, I need to finish my degree by day X. When should I defend? And I don't mean to be cagey or kind of give you this coy answer, but I really don't know. 8 weeks before that is a good guess, because it usually takes 6 weeks after a defense to submit your final document. But I'm working with a range of 1 day to 3 years. I don't know who you are. I don't know if you're Mr. 1 day or you're Ms. 3 years, or vice versa. I just don't know. Some people, I think, are playing some immigration games because they want to maintain student status for longer, to do something special. But I can't tell you what kind of person you are and how long you really need after your defense in order to submit that final document. But on average, it's going to take us 2 to 3 weeks after you submit your document to get it reviewed, approved, go through the review cycle. Usually that's what it takes. Usually it takes you 2 weeks to schedule your defense. It takes you 2 weeks to do your stuff. So, kind of 8 weeks will give you plenty of time. Doesn't mean everyone needs that, but that's, my estimation. So for the rest of the afternoon, we're going to learn, more about formatting, and we'll talk about that in the next couple of seminars, and I've already mentioned these times. So scheduling your exam then, your defense, at least 2 weeks before your defense, you're going to want to set a day and time, reserve a room, submit the pre-defense form, and submit your dissertation, thesis, or report via Canvas to the graduate school and your committee via the method of their choice. So ask your committee members, do you want a paper copy? Do you want an emailed PDF? Do you want something on papyrus? Ask them what they want, be nice to them, give them whatever they want. Mine wanted comb-bound copies, in paper, double space, so they could write all over it. Everyone wants something different, so you're just going to have to ask. And again, your degree completion timeline on the website has a lot more information as well. In order to submit to Canvas, you're going to log into Canvas and log in with your Michigan Tech credentials. You're going to select the course graduate candidates from your dashboard. Hopefully you've all logged into Canvas at some point. And there's actually a lot of instructions here. So I would encourage you to read them. They're kind of bulleted and headlined, so they're not too hard to read. But it asks you at the top, do you want to, and has a couple of different things. So if you want to submit your pre-defense dissertation, thesis, or report, you click on modules in the left-hand menu. That's circled in the left-hand in red, and as well boxed in that center. We got links right to the instructions. So if there's other things that you couldn't remember about what to do, we've got links to the instructions. After your defense, you do not come back to Canvas. You'll notice on the home page it says, do you want to submit a dissertation, thesis, or report after your defense? And it links right to the instructions. So we've tried to link back and forth to the instructions in as many places as we can for you. So on that modules page, you're going to select the assignment that you're submitting. If you're doing a report, thesis, or dissertation, you're going to pick the one that you're submitting. So it's titled pre-defense document submission for the type of document. You'll have a little box there that says submit assignment. That's circled in red. So you'll click on that. Again, there's instructions here. It tells you what to do 2 weeks before your defense as well as after your defense. So it's repeating everything in as many places as we can. So wherever you find it, we hope that you'll take a couple minutes to read it, because it's easy to forget little details, but they are all written down in multiple places. You're going to add a file. So you're going to kind of hit that browse button and pick a file, and then you'll submit the assignment. If there is something specific that you'd like us to look at on your document, maybe you've got a question about the formatting, or there's something that you want to know about, there is a comments box there. And it's much better to ask a question about your document there, because if you send us an email, we're going to have to link your email to your review submission. And when we get 20 of them in a day, it's hard to remember, oh, this is the person who had an emailed question, so I need to go back. And it's going to be hard for us to answer your individual question when we're already reviewing your document. Opening it up twice isn't very efficient either. So if you've got a specific question for your document, please type it in there and you'll get the best response. If you do, let's say you submit by 4 o'clock on Friday because that's what you had to do for your defense date, and on Saturday you notice something's a little off and you wanted to change it, you notice that all the page numbers are in the wrong place, or that you had a figure in the margins, or whatever you noticed, you can resubmit at any time that you want to. You can click the resubmit button. In the Canvas window, it'll say in that submission box, it'll show you, that you've turned it in and what time. If you click that resubmit button. The only thing that'll do for you in terms of your review is it will put you to the end of the line. So we do review them in the order they're received. So I wouldn't recommend, resubmitting it like, 8 days after you've submitted, because we're going to be reviewing it within 10 business days. But if you notice something that night or the next day and you want to just revise it because you want us to look at a better document, feel free to do that. We'll email you when your review is ready. And in that submission box, there'll be a grade that says complete just because you're done. There's no grading associated with this. And then your review file will be in that red box. You'll see this one says Charlesworth Deborah F16RD. We've got a little code so that everyone has a unique file name, but it always starts with your last name. And you'll return to Canvas for that. After your review, you really should read everything. So look at the review right away, because if you have questions, we can help you with those questions. And in the review, it'll say, see section XYZ of the guide. So it'll actually point you to the instructions that have a little bit more description of what that requirement is. So we're on the review just going to say page numbers in the wrong place. But in the guide, it'll actually say, oh, the page numbers should look like this, and they should be in this location. And so there'll be a little bit more description and a little more information there. There are also a lot of helpful tutorials on our blog that say like how to fix page numbers, how to embed your fonts, how to do this, that, or the other thing. And so I'd encourage you to take a look at those materials as well. And if you can ask questions, email us at gradschool@mt.edu or stop by the grad school and we can help you. And there are a couple of things that are listed kind of at the end of your review that are suggestions. They're called recommended changes. They're not required. So if you don't do them, doesn't matter. It's okay. Won't make us sad, won't make us angry. It doesn't do anything. It's just they won't happen. Okay. So that's before the oral defense. You submit your pre-defense form and Canvas. After your oral defense, if you want to graduate in spring, not fall, I always miss one of those somewhere. But the deadline is, again, 4 p.m. on April 16th. That's when you need to submit your final document. If you don't submit your final document by then, you will not be eligible to complete your degree in spring. If you don't make that deadline, you will need to maintain continuous enrollment. Now, we don't require you register in the summer, as you probably all know by now. But if you want to finish your degree in the summer, you will need to register then. So it's kind of up to you. Like if you kind of think your corrections are going to take longer than the summer, or you're not sure, then maybe don't register and wait until the fall, but maybe you need the degree to get the job. So, it's a sort of a personal decision to make, and we can help you with that if you need to make decisions. Please don't wait until the last day. I'm going to say this, but it's going to happen anyway, but we're all human. We all wait till the last day to do everything. But what's going to happen when you submit on the last day is about 60 to 70% of everybody for the semester submits on the last day. We'll get upwards of 40 submissions. So if you come in at 3:59 on that day and have a really detailed question, please don't expect us to be all smiley faced and happy to see you. We're happy to see you, but we're going to be a little more curt with you on that day because we're dealing with 40 other people at the same time. So you're going to get a lot more friendly service, and you're going to get a lot more personal attention if you come a little bit earlier, even the Friday before, even the Thursday before. And I'm not talking about I have to do it 6 weeks ahead of time, but the whole week before is much less busy than that last day. The last day is insanity in the grad school. And we typically get more students after we reject their submission who then come back and say, well, why? And it's for the same reason we told you when we reviewed it the first time. You just didn't ask the question earlier. So again, after you get that pre-defense review, if you don't understand something, or even if you just want to get clarification, make sure you come and talk to us. It'll make your life a lot smoother. And I looked at the data from last semester, and it's pretty similar to every other semester, but only about 1/3 of the submissions get accepted on the first try. There's reasons for that, and there's things you can do to prevent it, but that's the reality. And so if you're working up to that deadline and you're just trying to submit anything just because you want to meet that deadline, the chances are that you're going to have to resubmit it. And so kind of having a little bit of patience while we wade through 40 submissions and get to yours is going to be appreciated, because it's just not going to happen overnight that you're going to get your review back. What do you submit to the graduate school? And we'll talk about each one of these things in a little more detail. If you're doing a dissertation or thesis, all students submit the approval form. So the approval form tells us a bunch of stuff about your submission, and we'll go through that in a little bit. Everyone also submits their document to Digital Commons. And then dissertation or thesis students also submit to ProQuest. Now what that means is until your column has all the Xed items turned in, it's not complete. And we don't look at incomplete submissions because it doesn't make any sense. Because if it's accepted, I want to move on and make you graduate. If it's accepted and I have 2 out of the 3 things, then I got to ask you for the 3rd thing, then I got to check the 3rd thing. Like I want to do it all at once and get you graduated and get you done. And I can do that in an hour if everything's correct and all there. So we only look at complete submissions. Everything that goes to Digital Commons and ProQuest goes to the graduate school first. We look at all of those submissions. So we say this to the graduate school and you go, but it's Digital Commons. We own Digital Commons. We have a license for that. ProQuest, we have to release them before they go out anywhere else. So Michigan Tech looks at everything first. When you're submitting to those sites, you are submitting to Michigan Tech first. When your submission is incomplete, on my Michigan Tech, your checklist will have a little exclamation point, and your dissertation, thesis, or report will also have a little thing that says it's incomplete. And that all items box, that's the hyperlink that's boxed in red, will take you to your degree completion timeline so that you can see what's incomplete. Since there's 40 people submitting and there's 3 different items to submit, and 2 for this type of person and 3 for that, and you know, one person's got item 1 and one person's got item 2 and one person has items 1 and 3, and we can't tell you individually what things you're missing. We would never get through the emails of the day. So you're going to go to my Michigan Tech, you're going to click on all items, and that's going to take you to that degree completion timeline. And you'll be able to see then, you'll notice the first 3 items are the things that we just talked about for a dissertation student. And that 4th button for everyone says final submission complete and in review. So you'll be able to see when it's complete because there'll be a checkbox there as well. So if anything above that submission complete and in review is not checked, those are the things we're looking for. Complete submission will also say that on your checklist as well as that status area. Your approval form needs to arrive and be dated within 1 week of your final submission. What that means is if you defend today and submit me your approval form today, that means your dissertation's been accepted by your advisor. You've completed all your technical corrections. So you should be able to submit your dissertation within a week. Really should be able to do it that day, but we kind of realize that sometimes there's a little bit of wiggle room with that. You can't submit your dissertation form today, your approval form today, and submit your final dissertation in April. Your advisor can't sign off that all your corrections are complete until they're complete. So don't have your advisor pre-sign that form 6 months in advance and hold on to it until that final day. You need to get that form, needs to arrive close to when your submission comes in. So our tip to you would be to make your corrections to your dissertation, thesis, or report, get the form signatures on that form, and then submit it to the graduate school. Then we know you've got the corrections complete, and then you can go online and do your digital things as soon as that's done. Some students have trouble getting a signature. Somebody might be out of town for a week. Maybe they don't want to reply to emails. Maybe they're on a cruise and they can't be contacted. And so if you submit your document on Digital Commons and we don't see your form for 6 weeks, we're going to say you have to resubmit it. We don't know what this document is, but it's not close enough. We do allow emails, we do allow scans, we do allow faxes. So if somebody's off campus and wants to email us, they can do that to get those signatures to us. On the approval form, there's 2 really important things that you need to think about for your thesis submission or dissertation or report. First one is access. Who do you want to see your document? Open access means anybody can access your document in the entire world. That might be appropriate for your work. Maybe you want everybody to see it. Anybody who can just find a website can find it. On ProQuest, your options for dissertations or theses would then be traditional or open access plus. Their open access plus is I think it's a $95 fee. We don't want you paying that fee if you don't want to. Gives you a little more open access, but once you're open access in one place, it's not really giving you a lot of benefit other than people who are using ProQuest's platform will be able to see it more easily as well. It's kind of up to you, but most people don't do that. Most people who do open access for Michigan Tech just do traditional. It's free. Campus access means that only Michigan Tech patrons, like people with tech credentials, so you've got an MTU email address right now, you're a student, you're anywhere in the world, you can VPN in and you can sign into the library and get stuff. Or people who are physically in the library. So if you go to the library, you'd be able to get it as well, because if it was a book on the shelf, you'd also be able to pull it off from a book on a shelf. So it's that kind of access. If you select that kind of access, then you must select traditional access with ProQuest. It doesn't make any sense to restrict your document on campus, but then with ProQuest pay to have it open access. That doesn't make any sense. So we're not going to let you do that because it just doesn't make sense. The other thing that you will select on your approval form are your embargo options. What an embargo means is that it will hide your document until that period has ended. On Digital Commons and ProQuest, you'll have the title and the abstract available. Those are public things. If there's some reason why your abstract can't be published, we can work with you on that, but I haven't had anyone have that issue in many, many years. I think I've had one in the last 10, 11 years I've been doing this. If it's really, but if it's really important to not be public, don't put it in your abstract because your abstract is going to be public. An embargo may be necessary to protect your intellectual property while a patent's being filed. Since we're in the forestry building, I'll use the example where we had someone once who needed a 5-year embargo, and I said, 5 years? That's ridiculous. What do you need a 5-year embargo for? It's like, well, we need to grow the trees before we can patent the genome. Okay, good reason. Trees need some time to grow. They don't just do it overnight. So there's certain times when that's necessary. There are a few journals out there who will consider a thesis or dissertation a prior publication. Very few, but there are some. And if they require that your journal article come out before your thesis or dissertation, that's fine. We can take care of that. We do need a reason for all embargoes. I can approve a year embargo with no fuss or stink at all. So if you just tell me you want one for whatever reason, pretty much, as long as it's a reasonable reason. No one's given me unreasonable reasons yet, but because I'm publishing, because we think there's a patent, because whatever, up to a year, no problem. More than a year, the dean gets involved and she's going to need some more detailed information. So maybe you have an agreement with a sponsor that says we need that. Maybe you have trees that are growing. Maybe you have a journal article or a journal editor who says something. But it's because somebody told you you needed it, not just because you feel it's a good idea to have one for 5 years. It needs a reason. We are a public university. We receive public state money to support the university here and to support our research. And so it's our obligation to report that research to the public. And so that's part of our public obligation. Submitting Digital Commons, there's a submission link on My Michigan Tech and on our website. That's the link there. If you go to the link and select Submit Research, that'll get you there. You're going to use on the left-hand side, there's a nice login area. You're going to log in with your ISO credentials, so you don't need to create another account or do anything special for this site and log in. So don't create an account, just use your ISO credentials. There will be a publishing agreement that you read. It says that you've done all your copyright stuff and that everything that's in your document you can reprint, that none of it's plagiarized. You give the library some ability to reproduce your work if they need to. Check that box and hit continue. And then it'll ask you a lot of information about your document, the title, the author, all that kind of good stuff. ProQuest is required for theses and dissertations. You're going to visit that website. Again, a link to that is on My Michigan Tech as well. Traditional publishing is all we require. You will need to create an account with them. Open Access Plus and a copyright filing are two services that they offer. They are both fee-based services. Those are two of the things that they will ask you for money if you select those. Those are optional. We do not require those. We'll talk about copyright filing in the copyright seminar that will be coming up. You can order bound copies from ProQuest at an additional cost. Those bound copies are also optional, but that's one of the ways that you can get them. For dissertation and thesis students, it's a really easy way since you have to online select there anywhere. You can just kind of click 2 copies and get them. Otherwise, you'll need to find another service to do that. So it's sort of up to you, but this would be an easy way to get the copies if your advisor is requiring you get one, or your grandma wants one, or you want one, or something like that. If your if your document requires revision, we will email you from Digital Commons. There'll be a template email we have. All you need to do is update your submissions on Digital Commons and ProQuest. You do not need to create a new submission. In fact, if you do, we'll usually send you back a nasty note and say, please don't do that. Do what we asked you to do instead. The reason is we want to make sure when we finally publish your work that we publish the right one. If you've got 3 submissions on Digital Commons, then we're going to have to figure out which one is the one you wanted. And that's not really good for you or your work. And then wait for your next review. Probably the most complicated thing about Digital Commons is finding your review. The link is in your email, but it's not real obvious. So in your email, there'll be a link that'll take you to a page that looks like the one I'm showing here. And you can see here it's got the date. So that was the date that that email was sent with the subject of, submission number 101, revision required. So that's the subject of the email you'll get. And the attachments are circled in red on this particular screenshot. And there'll be, again, that file that's like your last name, first name. Now it'll say, F18DD or something like that. And so it's on that link that we give you, but it's not super obvious. They don't have like a big button with a PDF icon or anything like that. The resubmission fee. So if you submit if you have to do revisions for formatting, and you submit them by May 4th, and it's not accepted, or you can't submit them by May 4th, maybe there's just a whole lot. Maybe you're moving and things are happening and you can't get to them. There's too many for you to correct in a day or two. You're not at the right computers anymore, you're traveling or whatever. So if you either can't meet the deadline, or if whatever you submit by May 4th is, if you submit it on May 4th at 4 p.m., you're guaranteed not to get a review until after that time, right? Because we can't instantaneously look at it. And so people who submit very close to the deadline, again, aren't going to get that benefit. If that happens, we have a real easy solution for you. We basically enroll you in a class. We enroll you in UN 5951 if this is your terminal degree. There's no fee associated with it. There's no tuition, so we're not going to collect another $1,000 in experience tech and all that kind of stuff from you. What you will pay is a resubmission fee, and we charge 25% of 1 credit of tuition when you complete your degree. We do base that on the lower tuition rate for, I think the social science rate, computer science, whatever the lower rate is, the non-engineering rate, just to kind of make it as low as possible. We have some costs associated with processing your stuff into the next semester. We need to make sure we recoup that. We use that money to do things like our formatting seminars and snacks and things like that for these sorts of things. So we put it back into thesis and dissertation support, but we do need to collect that cost. When your document is accepted, if there are any fees due, we'll bill you for them. You won't get your degree until we pay. You should check My Michigan Tech to make sure if there's anything else you need that you complete that. Your document will be released after degrees are granted for the semester. Because we had Christmas, for example, after the end of the last semester, and now most of the submissions were just released yesterday for fall, but it will take a little while. Partly that's to kind of give everyone a cooling off period. If a week after everything's signed and sealed, you figure out something's really wrong, or you figure out you need an embargo after all, or there's something like that. So we sort of have a natural cool down period. So after the rush of the deadline, if you finally figure out something that you should have figured out a little earlier, we have a little bit of time to let things rest. But they will be released, pretty soon after the semester's over. With an embargo, you'll have your title and abstract available on Digital Commons and ProQuest until that date is over. If you don't have an embargo, then you'll get stuff on Digital Commons as soon as it's released. So as soon as we hit the post button, pretty much within about half an hour, it'll be online for everybody. On ProQuest, they have their own process that they go through to make sure that their needs are met, and so they may take a little bit longer to get there. It's a lot of stuff here. If you didn't pick up the handout in the back of the room, the front page summarizes the submission steps. They really are very simple. There's just a lot of detail that I'm telling you because usually students ask me the questions, and so I've tried to anticipate as many of them as I can. But that one-page handout in the back will give you all the kind of highlights. But I want to kind of re-emphasize that the best dissertation, thesis, or report, the best one that you can do is one that's done. You will find a mistake in it. We will not take your degree away as long as it's an honest mistake. I have 2 tables in mind that are identical. It drives me nuts. I didn't figure it out till after I was doing my papers, but no one came and took my degree away. It's all right. Like, so you're gonna have a couple little details that sneak through. It's okay. Focus on getting done. Focus on getting your defense done. Focus on getting it done. Don't worry about everything along the way. We're here to help you if you need it. And I would like to say congratulations, because the fact that you're here and thinking about defending and submitting means that you're reaching a couple more milestones in your degree, and we are proud of you. Not everyone can do this, and we're happy that you're here to work on your degree with us. So at this point, there's about 14 minutes left for questions. So if there's any questions about